All right. Welcome to Season 4 of the Erie Music History Podcast. I'm Chip Shell, your host, and today we have a special and very unique episode. It's special because it's dedicated to one of Erie's greatest singers, Paul Yoculan, who passed away in 2019. But it's unique because I have two guests today, Paul Yoculan Jr. and Joe Salorino, who are both going to talk a little bit about Paul's life, as well as a very important tribute concert / memorial scholarship dance that's coming up on November 19th. So we're going to get to all that. So, guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. I want to do something for those folks out there who don't know who your father was. I'm going to read from this little pamphlet that goes along with the event you guys are putting on. This explains who Paul was. This says, Paul Yoculan was a singer, performer, mentor, coach, and lifelong supporter of youth sports. His groups, the Epics and the Younger Brothers, played the top stages from New York to Hollywood and shared the marquee with some of the biggest names in the business. His friends included the Beatles, the Young Rascals, Joey D, Frank Sinatra, I've heard of that guy, and countless others. He performed for President John F. Kennedy, and Paul Anka wrote a song especially for Paul. Paul appeared on many recordings and was an artist on the Warner Brothers label, and he was a coach for 40 years. Paul, in his autumn season, was an endeared member of the Mercyhurst Prep baseball coaching staff. So, Paul Yoculan Jr., you've got your Mercyhurst baseball shirt on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in a household with a father who had played for the Beatles.
Well, it's amazing because, I went to Catholic grade school and I went to Cathedral Prep and graduated from Slippery Rock, and I received a tremendous education there, book-wise. But the education I received growing up with my father was well beyond
very different
books, being in the Peppermint Lounge in 1964 and not really even knowing what was going on,
Did you guys move there when they were in the Epics? No, you just went up to visit?
We always had our home as Erie. And my father loved Erie. I mean, it was something that he always was proud of, being from Erie, Pennsylvania. And we would go visit him. We'd go spend time in New York City, staying at the Hotel Knickerbocker, which was actually right next door. Peppermint Lounge was a part of the Hotel Knickerbocker.
Right.
So we would stay there, and we'd go to Boston. We spent 3 months down in Puerto Rico.
Because they were traveling
They
around?
were traveling a lot. We were in Miami. We went to Vegas. We spent months there. We would take some time off, like Christmas vacation or Easter vacation, and extend it. But the thing is that we meeting the people and having to do the things that we had to do and behave.
Yeah, right.
That was the biggest thing.
How many kids are in the family?
2, my sister and myself.
Okay.
And she's my older sister, by the way.
Okay.
No, not really. She's my younger one. But
Joe says you're in trouble. Okay.
But, just, meeting all his friends, Jose Feliciano, Tina Turner,
wow.
Joey D, just countless people, and having to behave ourselves. I'll tell you a quick little story here,
We love long stories. Okay. That's great, yeah.
We were out in Las Vegas, and my father and Vinny at the time were playing at the International Hotel in Las Vegas.
So explain Vinny Younger.
Vinny Younger, Frazzini, right. Was
He's
my father's partner, tremendous artist. And my father and Vinny together were phenomenal.
Right.
They were absolutely phenomenal. But we were in Vegas, and my father was playing in the secondary room, which sat probably maybe 400 or 500 people.
Oh,
okay. And in that particular room was Red Fox, Tina Turner, and the Younger Brothers.
Wow.
Okay. In the main room was Elvis. Okay. So what we're doing, is that we're there and we're enjoying ourselves. We're there for, a couple of weeks. So we get my father says, well, let's go see the Elvis show. Oh, okay, Dad. I was like 14 years old at the time, you know. So my father had a little pool. So we get seats. We're about 5 feet from the stage, and we're having a dinner show there. And Elvis comes out and he's doing his thing. He's got his scarves and he's throwing them all around, and women are all going crazy, So I'm sitting there and I'm like, what am I doing here, So I said to my mother, I said, Mom, can I go back upstairs and watch the hockey game? Well, my father gave me a look. He said, you're sitting here right now and you're going to enjoy this.
That would be a memorable story.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And believe me, I sat there and I at least pretended I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
okay?
Right. Now, you've mentioned the Peppermint Lounge, and some folks may not know what that is. And so, the Walt Slavinsky episode on season 1, Walt explained about going to the Peppermint Lounge with the Epics. But tell us a little bit about that and what that was and why it was so important.
Well, the greatest thing about this is that you had some people from Erie, Pennsylvania, 16th, 17th, and Liberty, back in Little Italy at the time,
right.
Okay? And, my father was always doing shows, and, he had a little quartet, a cappella, okay, that type of thing. And they tried out for the Ted Mack Amateur Hour.
This is the Epics.
Right, the Epics.
Yep.
And, it was just 3 of them at the time, okay? And what they did is that they sang Bye Bye Blackbird. Okay, well, they went down to Pittsburgh, okay, and they made the cut, so they ended up being able to go to New York City for the finals.
Okay.
Well, they didn't win, but irregardless, they left the Ted Mack Amateur Hour, okay, went over to the Peppermint Lounge, because at that time, the Peppermint Lounge was the #1 nightclub in the world.
Right.
I mean, it was just world-renowned.
And this is early 60s.
Early 60s, okay.
Yeah, right.
I think it was 59 or
Right,
yeah, maybe
59,
50, yeah,
60,
right.
somewhere. So my father comes back, okay, and he says, geez, they saw a show named Joey D and the Starlighters doing the Peppermint Twist. And my father said, geez, what a high-energy show. What a great show. He says, we could do something like that. So they did. What they did is that they put together a show. They made a demo record, okay? Actually, right here in Erie, I think it's at Ham Record, okay?
Yeah, right.
Way back when.
Right.
They did made a demo record. My father and Ray Tubbs, okay, who's their manager, quote unquote, at the time. They have a manager, they're from
Sure.
Erie, Pennsylvania. Like how they know
They're
about
16
manager.
years old,
Right.
or however they old were. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was actually probably about 20, 21 at the
Okay,
time.
all right, good.
And so they go and they get on this plane and they fly off to New York City, and they got a little record player in hand, and they got the record. Mm-hmm. So they go into the Peppermint Lounge, okay, and you got a bunch of guys with crooked noses, okay, that run the Peppermint Lounge, okay, and they're talking, they got 30 seconds to impress these people.
Sure.
So they bring out the record player, okay, and they put the record on. It was called Twist and Shout, and they played the record, and they were impressed. The people at the Peppermint Lounge were impressed.
Yeah.
So they said, okay. Well, what we'll do, we'll give you a little shot here, okay? We'll give you like 2 weeks, okay, to come up and do your thing. Well, 2 weeks turned into 3 years.
Wow.
At the Peppermint Lounge.
Yeah.
And they were the band there. They were the band.
They were the house band.
A house band.
Yeah.
And shows and nightly, and it was just unbelievable. And while they were there, that's where a lot of things happened for them. Those
Sure.
3 years, it was just phenomenal.
And they had a very special set that they did.
Right.
That-
And in the one set, okay, that they did,
Right.
which really got a lot of national and international publicity, is that they did a spoof on the Beatles.
Right.
Okay, and what they did is that they had a big bass guitar and they had a plunger on it, okay, and they had another regular guitar, and none of these things they would play live because there were 3 singers. There was my father, Vinny Frazzini Younger, and then Larry Bugsy Cope Younger, okay? And they're up and they're doing a set. They had mops on their heads, okay, and they had these glasses, okay, with big noses on them.
Yep.
And they did a song, I Want to Hold Your Hand, okay, and they did another Beatles song, and it was just a spoof on them. Well, people loved it.
Yeah.
They absolutely loved it. Well, the funny thing about it is that when the Beatles were over in London, they had heard about this. Okay, that's how big the Peppermint Lounge was at that time.
Right.
They had heard about this spoof, okay, and when they came over, the first time they came over to the United States, they played on the Ed Sullivan Show that evening. Okay, so that evening they played at the Ed Sullivan Show, and found out when I'm going through my father's stuff in Parade magazine. Okay, They went from the Ed Sullivan Show, they went over to the New York or the Manhattan Playboy Club. Okay. And Paul McCartney actually says in the magazine, or Ringo says that Paul McCartney thought the girls were pretty. I can imagine.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah.
And they went from there and they went over to the Peppermint Lounge to see my father perform.
Right.
And they wanted to see this spoof on himself. So the first night, George Harrison wasn't feeling well. He wasn't feeling well for the Ed Sullivan Show, so he didn't go onto the Playboy Club or the Peppermint Lounge. But the second night, they liked the show, the Beatles, so much, okay, that they came back a second night.
Crazy.
So my father was telling me, he says, you know, we're up there, we're doing our spoof. Now all of a sudden the Beatles walk in. He says, you know, good Lord, you know, how are they going to take this? Because, you know, they're goofing on him.
Right.
So, you know, they're doing a thing, and they end the song, okay, and he says he kind of looks up to see the Beatles and what their reaction would be, and they're all giving them the thumbs up, okay? and it's funny because in the Parade magazine, and I'll read this here, okay?
Yeah.
It says here, this is the Parade magazine from, 1964. It says here, the group heads, after the Ed Sullivan Show, the group heads to the Playboy Club, where Paul is impressed with the girls in the bunny suits. This is what Ringo's saying, okay? Then it's on to the Peppermint Lounge, where they were spoofed by a novelty act. It wasn't really much like us, Ringo said. Their music was too good. But they became friends, you know. They hung out together, you know, and that's one of the things. Again, these are guys from 16th, 17th,
right.
Liberty, Little Italy, okay. Neil Myers, Vince Hobson, Walt Slavinsky, okay.
Right.
Steve Mizak, okay. They went there.
Yeah.
In my father's book, he goes on into more detailed explanation, okay? And it's going to be awesome. I mean, it's just stories like this, story after story after story.
Well, and that's one thing that we want to point out. We're not only here to talk about the event that's coming up, but at the event, you're going to release The Last Brother. That's the name of the book, right?
Right. We may change that just a hair, okay? But it will be released that evening, okay?
Okay.
We're going to have limited number of books there. There will be about 100 books there. However, you're going to have the information right there where you can go right online. There will be some books available locally in some local bookstores.
Perfect.
So people have an opportunity to purchase the book.
Now, the story that you just told, a lot of folks have heard bits and pieces of that over the years, and that's why I wanted you to tell it again, because it's such a great story. But you also alluded then, I mean, beyond that, after the Peppermint Lounge, he went on to play all sorts of places.
Right.
As the Younger Brothers.
Right.
And what happened then?
Well, another nice story, okay,
Yeah.
is that when they were in New York City, Warner Brothers really liked them. They really liked the Epics. But there was a little problem with that, okay? The problem is that their name was the Epics. Now, Warner Brothers had a competing label at the time called Epic Label. So they said, and I've got the contract right in front of me here, it says where we want to record you, but you cannot use the name Epics, okay?
Yeah.
So here's the deal. What they did is that they said, we're going to come up with a list of 50 names. And they told my father, you come up with the list of 50 names. And we'll see if we can come through and come up with a similar name or, you know, come to some type of agreement.
Yeah.
Well, they're going through the names, and all of a sudden Younger Brothers was there. And that's how they became the Younger Brothers.
Okay.
Paul, Vinny, and Larry Younger.
Gotcha.
They became the Younger Brothers at that time. Then they could go on and then did their recordings with Warner Brothers at that point.
Okay. All right.
They, at that point in time, did a song called High School Girl. And on the flip side of that was Somewhere by Streisand did it a little earlier from the West Side Story.
Okay. All right.
And that was heading up the ranks, okay, of the music charts, you know, 40th, you know, 30, 28, 20, you know, 21, all the way up to like number 7, number 6. And the last one that we have, I think it was number 7. Number 6 was, but there was no Beatles songs on there. Well, guess what happened? As soon as those Beatles songs hit the chart, it went tumbling down.
Right. Gotcha.
But that's how they became the Younger Brothers.
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
at that point in time, okay, Larry decided to leave the band. Okay, he went out to the West Coast and he took some band members with him.
Right.
And created a group called Orange Color Sky.
Sure.
And they were very, very successful out on the West Coast. And my father and Vinny then became the Younger Brothers, just the two of them.
Right.
And they went from New York City up to Boston, where they became managered by two guys named Chartoff and Winkler. And if you're familiar with those names, okay, you ever hear the Rocky movies, okay?
Sure.
Those were the producers. Those were the people that developed the Rocky movies.
Oh, okay.
So he was being managed. They were being managed. My father and Vinny were being managed by that particular association. And they played for Boston for, I can't tell you how many years up there. 2-3 years straight. They played all the best clubs up there. And again, we spent many times up there. But they played for, again, all these guys that had crooked noses, okay?
And is that when they recorded the album?
That's when they recorded the album. It was called Coming Out.
Okay. All right. I knew they recorded one, right?
Yeah, they recorded one, and it was called Coming Out, and they had to take a picture for the album. But Vinny had fell and broken his leg. It was in the middle of winter, so they had to take the picture with Vinny's lower part of his leg not showing.
Oh, so the one where they're on the steps,
right? Right. So
really?
that's the little story behind there, okay?
Interesting. Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did people think that your last name was Younger for a long time?
Well, yeah.
They probably thought his name was.
Right.
For sure.
Right. His musical name was Younger.
Sure,
okay?
Right.
But he always used Yoculan back here, okay?
Yeah,
and that was his name. And, younger brothers. Sometimes when I'm in contact right now, even with some of his friends, we're going to do some things in the show with some of his friends. I'm not sure how I should introduce myself as Paul Yoculan Jr., Paul Yoculan Younger Jr., Paul Younger Jr., but always get a response back for them. So,
sure. And the music bug never got you or your sister?
Well, here's another great story, okay? And I think I've told Joe this one. At one point in time, my father said, it might be nice, if you would learn how to sing a little bit, and we could do a father-son type thing.
Yeah.
I said, hey, not bad gig, And so I used to go over his house and go down the basement, and we used to do, he used to put me through all these musical voice things, all these exercises. So after 2 weeks, I get done with the exercise. I said, Dad, how am I doing? He said, don't give up your day job.
All right. So, and your sister, the same thing? Didn't...
No, she had a much better voice than I did, but she never really wanted to pursue it. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, Joe, you're sitting here silently, even though we've mentioned you numerous times. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the story. So, Joe Salorino, you're here. You're also a longtime Erie musician, drummer. Did you play in the Applesauce?
No, I did not.
Was prior,
Applesauce was prior to the Cows.
Was the Cows your first band?
My first working full-time band.
Didn't they pluck you from high school? Like you were in high school, right?
Yeah, it was actually the summer prior to my senior year. I got a phone call from Billy Arnold, and their drummer had gotten hurt, and
Ange.
There's a whole story. Grutt.
Grutt, right, yeah.
Dave Grholski, but they called him Grutt. And so Billy called me and asked if I'd be interested in auditioning. And I was just like, I was in drum corps. I was having the time of my life.
Yeah.
I just turned 17.
And the Cows were playing all the time at the time.
Yeah, they were playing 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of sort of ignored it, but he kept calling back. And finally I said, well, okay, I'll come and audition.
Yeah.
And it changed my life.
Yeah. You went on to play with Beat the Clock, Famous Clowns, Fabulous Nobodies.
How do you know all this?
I know stuff about you. Who am I missing? I know that, you obviously are going to play with Ruby Port.
Right.
And did you play with them when they reunited a few years ago, too?
Not at first.
Okay.
Not at the 40th. That was Steve McConnell.
Okay. All right.
But Stevie... I think he got busy with work or whatever, and so they asked me to step in, and I was thrilled to do it. My dad, I don't know if you know this, but my dad and Paul grew up together.
Oh, okay.
Went to Roosevelt and then the Old Tech downtown, and so my dad. So when I was little, my dad used to talk about Paul often, and he admired him, and he liked Paul very much. And I remember the first time I saw Paul was I was a real little boy, and we were at the Save an Eye game. And, of course, Paul was a big sports fan as well. And I sit with my dad. My dad pointed Paul out. He was sitting with Vinny, in fact. And I couldn't tell you what year that was, but I was pretty young.
Right.
But I was I was really happy when it was actually Dickie that called me and asked me to play in Rubyport.
Okay.
Of course, that was Paul's band.
Right,
So
right.
I got to play with him.
So was that the first time you played with Paul?
Yeah, I don't know that I had filled in at all.
Oh, okay.
Prior to that,
Right.
to any bands that Paul was in. But
Okay.
yeah, that was the first band I was officially in a band with Paul. So.
And, Rubyport plays a big part in the story we're going to tell today, but we didn't mention Rubyport before in the evolution of some of your father's bands and everything like that.
Yeah, we just haven't gotten there yet because that was 1971.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
In the beginning of Rubyport was?
Right.
Okay. Rubyport was a big band. We've had a few people, Paula Holmes, one of them, Dickie Buckle, on the podcast already. But more importantly, Rubyport's home was the Calabrese Club,
Absolutely.
a place that's no longer around. And again, a place that plays a key role in this event. Right. Tell us a little bit, because I know how it's going to play a key role, but tell us a little bit about what that backdrop's going to look like. Yeah. One of you. Joe, you're here because, by the way, you're here because you're just a cool guy. But you're actually on the committee for this big event. And
honored to be.
Joe is the committee.
Joe's the committee.
We have a committee of about, I think there's 8 of us, and it's a team effort, and Paul's the chair, of course.
Who else is on the committee?
Paul's mom, Shar, is the treasurer. Okay. And I appointed myself secretary.
Well done.
Dickie Buckle.
That was a mistake.
Tony Ciotti.
Great.
My daughter, Deborah, and my sister, Tammy.
Okay.
Who are just both brilliant when it comes to marketing and development.
Yeah.
And so they're really the brains of the committee.
Okay. All right.
So the rest of us are just kind of making it up as we go along.
And Ricky Carr is in charge of our entertainment for our weekends, okay, where we go out, and Ricky knows everybody.
I was just going to say, I had Ricky on the episode, and from then on, I've realized Ricky knows everyone.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, you got to have him involved. So Joe, you're helping out with this giant event. Let's talk a little bit about the event. You guys are meeting. How long has this been going on? First of all, whose idea was it?
Well, it actually started 2 or 3 years ago. And after my father showing at the funeral parlor, people kept coming up to me and saying, what are you going to do? I mean, how, you're going to have a celebration of life, you're going to have a party, you're going to... And I was thinking, be nice, okay, but that's a lot of work. And then speaking with Mercyhurst Prep, we kind of joined up, and the school gave me some ideas and said, hey, why don't you put together a scholarship fund for him?
Well, back up. Mm-hmm. Speaking to Mercyhurst Prep, so thus far, anyone who's listening and has heard Paul Yoculan's name and doesn't know his name knows he's a musician.
Right.
But there was a whole other side to this guy.
Absolutely.
Everybody in town, a lot of people know him as a coach.
Absolutely.
And just a sports lover, right?
Right.
And so his connection to Mercyhurst Prep was...
baseball coach.
Baseball coach.
Right. We help Randy Drakowski, who's the head coach there. We've known the Drakowskis since we grew up in the projects together.
Gotcha.
Okay, Randy and his brother Joe. Randy's a highly successful high school baseball coach with over 300 wins. And back then he said to us, why don't you come help me out? I could use some help, okay?
Yeah.
And, with my background in baseball, my father's background in baseball, my father added that little special touch to the baseball team. We're coaching kids that are 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Well, at that point in their lives, okay, it's a tough period in their lives.
Sure.
They're going from boys to men.
Right.
They have that change of life. They're going from middle school to high school. That's a huge change. They got the girl feelings, okay?
Right.
That's a change. Well, plus the pressures of baseball. Baseball is a highly pressurized sport. I mean, you're 1 for 3 in hitting. You're not only the best of the best, you're in the Major League Hall of Fame. That's 33% success rate.
Right.
Think about a 14-year-old, okay, being successful 33% of the time. They don't realize that they're good, okay?
Yeah, right.
But that's when my father's niche came in, especially at Mercyhurst, was being able to take those kids, recognize when a young man was having some type of issue, whether it was on the field, off the field, take him underneath his wings, okay, and guide him and get him through that particular point in time.
Gotcha.
And I think that goes back to when he was younger. Okay, my father was. You get the book, you'll see. Okay, he did some interesting things at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old that made national news. Okay, and
not for the good reasons.
Not for the good reasons. Right. Okay, nothing bad, but he's on the wrong path. And he went to Tech, as Joe had mentioned, okay?
Yeah.
And there was a coach there named Al Calabrese. And he was a football coach. He was a gym teacher. He took my father underneath his wing, okay, and straightened him out. Or my father would have never done what he did. So I think in the back of my father's mind or the front of his mind, I can't tell you which with my father, who knows,
right.
But he always had that heart to say, hey, I want to help other people. I want to help younger kids. I want to help young people,
sure,
get through life, get through that period of life.
Right.
And that's where his success was as far as coaching baseball goes, as far as meeting people.
Yeah.
If you met him now and 10 years from now or 10 years ago, okay, and he saw you on the street, he'd remember you.
Sure.
Okay. And you'd go up to him, I just got a text the other day, okay, where somebody texted me and said, your dad, I hadn't seen him since he taught me gym class at St. Stan's. This is back in 1980.
Yeah.
Okay. He says, but I saw him, I went up to him, he remembered me. He remembered my name. And he said, Paul, can I get a hold of you? I need to talk to you about a few things. My dad said, okay, well, let's go sit down, have a cup of coffee. Hour and a half later, okay, he talked to him and got him through his situation. But that was my dad.
Yeah,
okay?
right.
That was him as a person.
So that's how you eventually went to Mercier's first and said,
right.
Hey, let's do something in his name, right?
Right.
And how did that go? So that was about 2-3 years ago, you said?
About 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
And what happens is that they had a great idea of developing a scholarship fund. And a scholarship fund is that, the school picks out a deserving student, okay? It's not a baseball player. It's not an athlete. It's just a deserving student, okay, at the school. And they give away the Paul Yoculan Senior Scholarship, okay?
All right.
Well, we've created so much interest and so much income at this point, okay, that we are $5,000 away from taking that from a scholarship fund and turning it into a foundation. And what the difference is that a scholarship fund, you have to continually input money into a scholarship fund. So 3 years we've given away a scholarship.
And where has that money come from?
That money has come from donations. It's come from purse bingo. We had a purse bingo.
Different events.
Right,
Yeah.
that created $7,000.
People love those purse bingos.
And then there was an anonymous donor that matched that $7,000, okay? Just things like that where we created this fund. We need $5,000 more, and it takes it from a scholarship fund to a foundation where they invest that money, and we never, ever have to invest money into that again.
Because
it just keeps making its money.
Gotcha.
And at that point in time, 25 years from now, or as long as Mercier's Prep is around, they'll be giving out the Paul Yoculan Senior Memorial Scholarship.
Gotcha.
And that's what our goal is here, okay?
All right.
To do that.
So that's what the whole event is geared around as far as funding, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Every dollar that we create, okay, any proceeds that we get will go directly into that particular account.
Got it.
And I should say that this is a fundraiser for the scholarship, but also I want to make sure that we remember this is a lasting tribute to Paul.
For sure.
And it's the way we can do it the best way we know how, and I think the way he'd want us to do it.
And as the musician in the room, Joe, that leads me to the next question is, so this is an event. This is a happening. This is a big deal. And as a result, either through Ricky or you and a combination of the committee, you have procured some, the first two bands haven't played in years. Rubyport, like you said, reorganized 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
It was about 11
years ago.
Yeah, because they played a concert at Rainbow Gardens for their 40th.
Right.
So that was the comeback, the 40th anniversary. anniversary.
And so
what that was.
Well, we've got Dickie Buckle on guitar. He was an original. Denny Fabrizi playing keys.
Fabrizi on keys.
Bob Seaman, an original bass player.
Yeah, that's right.
Pete Natale's playing trombone.
Yep.
Original. Now Jesse is singing.
Jesse's
right?
going to
Jesse
sing. Yeah,
Linné.
Jesse Linné.
Right.
He's going to sing.
I always forget your horn players' names. I
Dale
apologize.
Zimmerman.
Okay.
Let's see. We got Bruce and Dudley on horns. Who are we missing?
You on drums.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be playing drums.
Right. Okay. All right. That's a big band. And so, Paul, you alluded to the backdrop. This is at Rainbow Gardens, and we're going to have a special stage.
Right.
What's it going to look like?
Oh, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Tony Ciotti came up with this idea, and it's just a phenomenal idea.
And Tony Ciotti comes from a family of owners of
nightclubs
in town.
Right.
Yeah.
And his dad, Cy, and my father were really, really close.
Right.
But the backdrop for the event, and Debbie Seaman and Patty Putzker, have a committee together. They're going to make half the stage the backdrop of the Calabrese Club. Awesome. Because my father loved Cy, and he loved performing there. And it's where Ruby Port got its start, was at the Calabrese Club. Right. And the other half of the backdrop of the stage is going to be the Peppermint Lounge.
Cool.
And with that, the Peppermint Lounge, we're going to have one, maybe two of the original Peppermint Lounge twisters coming in. As I mentioned before, we got people coming in from all the country, outside the country. One is in New Jersey right now, Marlene, and Misty is down in Florida. And
Misty sounds like a peppermint twister.
Right. She's awesome.
All right.
And Marlene is just phenomenal, and she's coming in with her boy Al Fazzini, and they're coming in, and
very cool.
Maybe we can get her up on the stage and
I was going to say
do a little twisting herself,
Yeah.
Along with Misty. So
that's very cool.
We have some fun planned.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Peppermint twisters.
Right.
So, Joe, tell us a little bit about who else we should expect to see on stage.
So, from the 1970s and 80s, in fact, this band, like you mentioned before, has not played since the 1980s, and that's Wave.
Yeah, huge band.
And they were a tremendous band.
Right.
Back in that era.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might remember them filling the Presque Isle Inn down near Beach 1 there.
The Tyson family.
The Tyson family,
right.
correct. So Timmy Tyson is leading the charge on that one, and I'm really looking forward to hearing them.
Who's playing with them?
Mike Dombrowski's coming in from Kansas.
That's right.
On guitar. Bill Miller. These are original guys.
Nick Nardo's not playing, right?
Nick Nardo's coming in, but he tells us he's not playing, but we'll see about that.
Okay, all right. Love it. Bill Miller's playing, you said?
Bill Miller's playing bass.
All right.
I'm not going to tell you who the horn section is because we're waiting to confirm.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
So we should know in the matter of days who's playing horns. And then there'll be some female singers as well singing with Timmy.
Perfect.
And they're some of the best that I've ever heard and some of the best talent that has ever come out of this area.
Ruby Port and Wave, they haven't played in a while. Are they practicing now? Are they getting together? Are you rehearsing? What's going on?
Yeah, we will be. Rehearsals start momentarily.
Soon? I was going to say.
No, very soon.
A Nova Aurora Club, or where are you doing that?
We're hoping, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Get Ruby Port in the Nova Aurora Club and rehearse down there.
You need
They've
a big
been
spot.
Very gracious to us.
Yeah. And we should mention that. I mean, that's important. So 2 big bands, but then we also have some other stuff.
I want to mention, too, that Ruby Port is a 10-piece band, but that night it's going to be a 9-piece.
Okay. All right.
And we'll set the table for our mentor, Paul Yoculan.
Yep.
Wave, I think, will be a 10-piece. Ron Seggi, who a lot of folks around this area know from the radio.
Right.
But Ron also does a live show, and he's in Orlando now, has been since the 80s. He's an international radio star.
He is.
But before he performs live with his big orchestra.
Yeah.
So he's coming up, and we're going to back him up with a 4-piece that night.
Oh, okay. All right.
At the event, November 19th.
And he played with that orchestra back in 2016 at the Warner, I think.
He was here, at the Warner Theater,
So people know.
So, I mean, this is a guy, Ed McMahon was his best friend. That's how connected this guy is.
What kind of music should they expect from Ronnie G's
I think
orchestra?
rock and roll and pop.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. Yeah, all right.
So I don't think he'll disappoint. He's an entertainer.
Yeah, yeah. All right. That's impressive. BB2. We
these
know
guys.
Antoine
Absolutely.
and Henry. I mean, great
Dear
musicians.
friends.
Are they going to be starting the night?
They're going to start off.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'll mention, if you don't mind, the doors open at 6.
Oh, perfect.
The event goes till 11, and BB2 will start their first note at 6:30.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and if they don't, I'm going to run over and tell them to start.
All
Because
right.
we got a jam-packed night, and so it's I can't wait. We can't wait.
Right.
So we're talking Rainbow Gardens. Paul, tell us a little bit about, if I want to go, what do I have to do?
Very simple. Okay, there's multiple ways you can go, and I have learned. Okay, because it's not easy to teach an old dog new tricks here. Okay, but Joe and his daughter, okay, Debbie, are teaching me. You can go online and you can purchase tickets online. You can also purchase a T-shirt online. Okay, which are going to be available.
Oh, okay.
And you can go to Joe. I can't read this, Joe. It's Paul
I'm on the
Yoculan.
phone here doing Paul Yoculan business. What do you want me to read?
Where we go?
Okay.
It's danceforpaul.eventbrite.com.
Yeah, Dance for Paul is all one word. And I'll put
Right.
all this stuff in
Okay.
the episode notes,
Right.
too, so people
Right.
could just click on
So
it.
danceforpaul.eventbrite.com. You can go online there. You can reserve tickets. You can buy T-shirts. There's some other things that you can do on there, okay? Or you can contact myself, okay? My phone number is 814-882-5211. And if my voicemail is full, okay, I'll empty it out 5 minutes later because I'm getting just tons and tons of calls.
Sure.
Or you can email me at pyoclanjr@yahoo.com.
Let's spell Yoculan.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
YOCULAN. So it's pyoculaNjr@yahoo.com.
And again, I'll put all this in there for folks, too, so they don't
Great.
miss it.
So
Great.
we have, so you can buy tickets online.
Yep.
We also have paper tickets. Some people like that.
Absolutely, yeah. Mementos,
Yeah.
yeah.
So really they can contact Paul. People can contact Paul, but any committee member will have tickets.
Okay.
So
And they're $15 a piece?
$15.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how big are the tables?
We have tables for groups of 8 and 10.
Perfect.
You can buy individual tickets or
8 and 16, I believe.
8 and 16.
I knew the answer. I wasn't going to connect. Correct.
You can edit that out.
And this event is BYOB?
It is BYOB. You can also bring your own food, but I should mention that Clark Lane Catering is also making food, and it'll be available for purchase.
Cool.
And these are the chefs from the Erie County Technical School, and they have a catering business, and they're tremendous.
Yeah.
So they're
You know a little
helping
bit
us
about
out.
the Erie County Technical School.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So Joe works there. That we're joking. Your folks also helped with flyers and some of the promotional materials.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Our program is helping with the event. That's correct.
Let's give a shout out to some of the other folks that are helping with this event because, as you said, this has been a 2-year project, right? And
Absolutely.
you've been working on getting some sponsors to help
Right,
promote this. So
right.
tell us a little bit about that.
Well, and we're not even fully
Done yet.
okay?
Right.
But so far we have PNC, who's been just tremendous with us, okay? They are an event sponsor. Auto Express, okay? Joe, I want to see you in a Kia, okay?
There you go, right?
Flynn's Tire, okay? Joe Durkowski of Flynn's Tire. Champion Ford, okay? I've got a Ford and I got a Kia. So
That's right.
I promote both sponsors there. Valerio's Italian Restaurant, okay? Mike Valerio and his family and his dad and my dad go back to the Little Italy days, okay?
Okay.
They're a sponsor. Gary Matzak, Architects, okay? A tremendous man, okay? A sponsor for us. Coldwell Banker, okay, is a sponsor for us, okay?
Nice.
Colony Pub and Grill, okay? love to go out there and have lunch and listen to music.
Yep,
and,
Kevin has a good stage out there.
Absolutely.
Yep, yeah.
Teresa's Lakeshore Deli, John Calabrese, okay.
Yep, right,
Just and Erie Audiology Associates, Dr. Keenan, okay. Is a sponsor. And here's a great little story here, okay.
Yeah.
One of our main sponsors is his gentleman's name is Bill Sandusky, okay, and his family, okay, Jack and his mother and his sister, okay, Donna, and I can't remember his sister's name off the top of my head, but Bill lives out in California, and I was telling you a little bit earlier how my father used to take people, especially young people, and help them through difficult times.
Sure.
Well, the Sanduskys had lost, Jack and Bill had lost their dad at a young age. And my father kind of stepped in and helped guide them through some points in life through baseball. We had them in baseball.
So they were here, yeah, right. So
here
they
in
grew
Erie.
up here.
Grew up here in Erie, played baseball in senior league, okay, and my father, kind of took them again underneath his wings.
Yeah.
And, they both went off and they're doing well. Jack's out in Montana. He owns a business out in Montana, doing what he likes to do, be with elk and deer, whatever he does, okay, and I love him dearly. And Billy's out in Anaheim, and he works for he's a big shot with a lumber company out there.
Okay.
But Billy's also a 5-star gambler in Vegas. And he has free hotels.
Gotcha.
So,
Gets comped a lot.
Right. And so what he wants to do is kind of make this even more of a special event. So if you come in to attend the show and buy a ticket for $15, Billy is offering, a raffle ticket to go along with it, and you can win one of two prizes, okay? One of them is a 4-night stay, either at Caesar's Palace, Paris, or there's another one I can't remember.
Sure.
Yeah. But anyways, you basically fly in. He'll meet you there. He'll sign you in, give you the keys. 4 days later, you turn the keys in.
Good to go.
The other gift he'd like to give, is the same thing. 4 nights free at Caesar's Palace, Paris, okay, whatever's available when that group wants to go.
Right.
But he's going to pay for airfare for 2 anywhere in the United States.
Holy cow.
So you come to the event, you enjoy this lineup, you enjoy the show, you enjoy the dance, okay, and you have a chance at no extra cost, okay, to win a free trip to Vegas.
That's great.
I mean,
and all the proceeds are going to a good cause.
Absolutely.
And, you're going to have a good time for $15 and plus whatever else you're going to spend on the raffle tickets and stuff. I mean, you can't beat that.
Oh, you can't. And again, he wanted to make this special, okay?
That's great.
And he wanted to do this. He could have made a donation, but he said, let's let me do this, okay?
Oh, yeah.
To make this event even more special than it
really
is.
Yeah. So, well, that's great. So you also have 2 recognizable names for your Masters of Ceremony, Mike Ruzzi and Lou Baxter.
Yes.
Right?
They've been so gracious.
Yeah. I've seen the interviews with Mike, I think, right?
And Lou.
And Lou, too.
Yeah, and Lou, too. We've been on ICU, ENN,
sure.
Fox, Jet. Thank you, Joe.
I'm sure Lou plugs it on LeCom, too.
Absolutely.
We think he will.
Yeah. He's done a great job taking over the captain's chair. And
I talked to him about that, and I said, you just slid right in there and doing a great job.
He is doing a great job, and he recognizes the chair that he's in. And
a big chair.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right.
And Mike Ruzzi and my father go back years and years and years. Okay?
I figured,
when Mike was in sports, when he initially started off in sports, he's actually in the Sports Hall of Fame, Mike Ruzzi.
Okay.
But Mike would be on TV doing the news, and my father would text him, okay? And, in between when they'd cut or go to commercial, Mike would look at his text, okay? And my father would say, hey, Mike, your tie looks good today, Give him a little chuckle.
Yeah. So we're talking November 19th, Rainbow Gardens, 6 to 11 p.m. When we got here, you guys were talking amongst yourselves a little bit about you already have a bunch of tables sold.
Yes, yes. Here's just, I'll give you a little...
Oh, there's the diagram of what it's
preview of what we have reserved for right now.
Oh,
okay?
geez.
And you can see tables are going quickly.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tables are going. And I had another musician come up to me the other day when Joe was doing a benefit. Okay, and he bought a ticket, and I pulled out the chart, and he says, "That many tables are reserved already?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, that's normally not Erie." He said, Erie are people that usually do it at the last minute, but I have to tell you something. You wait to the last minute. You're not going to get in. Okay?
Yeah. I'm telling you, folks. I mean, this thing has a lot of tables already taken. Joe Giordano's coming to this?
Joe Giordano was coming up from Florida.
That. Whoa, okay. All right, yeah.
You know Joe?
I just know the name, yeah.
Well, Joe has a great story.
Yeah?
Okay?
All right.
Yeah, a second, I'll tell you Joe's story.
All right.
He'll love it to have all his family listening to this, okay?
You have a lot of good stories, and I appreciate you sharing those with us today. These are great. And like I said before, Paul had sort of a dual life as a musician and a coach and an athlete. Did he play in high school and stuff too?
He played football and he played basketball.
Okay.
But only through the good graces of God of Al Calabrese, he made it through school.
Yeah.
Okay? And sports was what helped him get through school, along with his coach, okay?
Yeah.
Because if not, he would have ended up, like I mentioned earlier, not in a very good place. So
Yeah.
you get the book, you'll see the reason whys for that, okay?
That's right. Well, yeah, that's one thing to remember is you can get the book, there's shirts, everything. This all goes for a good cause. So November 19th, I'm going to say it again, 6 to 11, Rainbow Gardens. Guys, thanks so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having
me. I appreciate it. And again, for those of you out there listening, I'll put all the details in the episode notes. But for now, we'll wrap it up. Does that sound good?
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening, and special thanks to the JPT Foundation for sponsoring the podcast and for letting us use their events hall once a month for our free music night featuring the fabulous Leftovers. They're a band of longtime Erie musicians who play for an hour and then are followed by 2 hours of an open mic. All the proceeds for the event go to the Second Harvest Food Bank. The music nights are held the first Tuesday of the month from 6 to 9 at the Events Hall, which is located on West 38th Street in the plaza right next to Our Lady of Peace Church. If you like the podcast and would like to help me out, because this is not a money-making endeavor for me, you can contribute a few bucks via Venmo or Patreon. Just go to the Erie Music History Podcast website for the links. And finally, for information on what bands and musicians are playing in Erie and the surrounding area, please check out Jack Stevenson's Two-Man Happy Hour podcast and webpage. Jack gives you all the details you need each week on who is playing where. That's Two-Man Happy Hour podcast. So, I'm Chip Shell, and I thank you again for listening to the Erie Music History Podcast.